Welcome back to Eye on Foxborough. I'm Karen Guregian, and today I'm thrilled to welcome Dane Brugler, NFL draft analyst for The Athletic and the author of the draft guide, affectionately known as The Beast. Hi, Dane. How you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
Well, uh, I'm like every reporter who has a team with the number three pick. So
Busy
busy,
time.
busy time. Yes. It's going your draft guide, uh you evaluate like over 400, I think, prospects in the guide. You take about 18 months to do it between tape study, conversations, scouts, prospects, and whatnot. Would you say it's a labor of love for you?
It's absolutely what it is. And, it could be a beating at times because it's just so much work, but it's all worth it when the finished product comes out and, so many people enjoy it. So many people use it as a resource. And that's really what I want people to look at this. It's a resource guide. You might not agree with my quarterback two or quarterback three, that's fine. People have their own opinions on these players, but understanding the value of this guide from the background information. No other resource has NFL verified testing information for almost 2,000 players. You're not going to find that anywhere else. So, the way I put together this guide is there's puzzle pieces all over the place, and it's my job to collect these puzzle pieces and put them together for each report, so you get a better sense of who the player is. We get a more clear picture of each one of these guys. And yeah, it's a painstaking process, but I do really enjoy it. It's my passion, evaluation and scouting, and I love just learning about the journeys of all these guys. No two are alike. Some are very unique, and it's interesting to learn how many sports they played growing up, or maybe different adversities they had to overcome, who has NFL bloodlines, all these different things. It's fun to dive into the background of all these players.
Yeah, for those who haven't been able to read it yet or may read it in the future, you not only get like a breakdown of the player's strengths and weaknesses, but you get a lot of background information. If their families, if there was like a generation of athletes in their families, or whatever it happens to be, it's that inclusive. The information for like over 400 prospects. So if anyone gets a chance, head to The Athletic and give it a look. Specifically with respect to the Patriots, obviously they have a number of needs. Quarterback is at the top, left tackle is another, and wide receiver another after that.
Mm.
Um, your your top six quarterbacks are Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, JJ McCarthy, Bo Nix, and Penix. Um, how did you arrive at that order? And let's say, what to you distinguishes May from Daniels at 2 and 3?
That will be the big, I think, the intrigue, right? And for the Patriots at three, will it be as simple as we're just going to take the guy the Commanders don't? Or where does JJ McCarthy fit in all of this?
Yeah,
Because
that's what we're all trying to figure that
yeah,
out. Yes.
he's incredibly impressive. He is. When you meet him, when you talk to him, the intangibles are off the charts. Um, and I've been a fan of his. If I go back to August, my initial top 50 for this season came out in August. JJ McCarthy was a top 25 player for me. I've been my thoughts on JJ McCarthy have been very consistent throughout the year. I wish there was more of a body of work on film. He played an offense where it was in about the trenches, and that's how they were going to move the offense. And hey, they won a national title. So who are we to argue with how that played out? But I was really encouraged by what he did on third and fourth downs. He has all the tools. It's just a matter of more experience, more body of work. But it seems like he has a lot of things you're looking for in an NFL quarterback. So I can understand how a team would come away from uh, their meeting with JJ McCarthy thinking, okay, maybe this isn't a three quarterback race. This is a four quarterback race, and we need to strongly consider him at two or three. And for me, Drake May's the second quarterback this year. Caleb is one. Caleb's going to be a Chicago Bear. He's, rare football awareness. His physical skill set, even though he's not the tallest, he's well built. He has a really strong arm, both velocity and accuracy. Caleb belongs at number one. Drake May is my number two quarterback and a guy that I'm really excited about because even though there are some inconsistent areas of his game, he can win with his legs. He can win with his arm. He's the only quarterback over the last 2 years in college football to have over 9,000 combined total yards. So even though he's playing on an offense that, especially this past season, he didn't have two first round picks at receiver like Jane Daniels did, but he was still able to make plays. And he was still able, even with the offensive line not being near what LSU's offensive line is, still able to make plays. So I think that when you consider the situation as well as just the talent, Drake May is the second best quarterback this year, even if it's a little more of a projection. He will need a little bit of time, but the same way, I mean, you're starting him from day one. I don't think this is a guy you need to sit and wait. He's going to start right away. Jane Daniels, he's with what he did the last 2 years at LSU. Because let's remember, okay, if he comes out after his third year, like Drake May, Jane Daniels is a sixth round pick, seventh round pick. He did his third after 3 years at Arizona State. We weren't talking about him this way, but he goes to LSU, has a little more structure with the coaching, with the offense, and he's able to turn himself into a Heisman winner and a guy that, if you want to create explosive plays, well, he did it all over his film. I mean, you look at this past year, he accounted for 90 plays of 20 plus yards. That's unheard of. A couple years ago, Joe Burrow, who had that magical Heisman winning, national title winning season, he had 87 plays of 20 plus yards, and that was in 15 games. Jaden Daniels did that in 12 games. So I just really, I understand with all three of these top guys, I understand why teams are being encouraged about, okay, with Drake May, you have guy that's cut from the same cloth as Justin Herbert, has the size, the mobility, the second reaction plays are outstanding. He can move his feet and still make something happen. Has a big time arm. It's just a little bit of the consistency with Jaden Daniels. You wish you were a little bit thicker as an athlete. Sometimes as a runner needs to take better care of his body. Doesn't need to prove how tough he is on every single run. But he's also really consistent as a downfield thrower. On throws of 20 plus yards this year, 67% completions, 22-0 touchdown interception ratio. So Jaden Daniels as a downfield thrower, really impressive. And then when he takes off and runs, he's got big time speed. Now, sometimes he's a little too willing to take off. When he feels the pressure, when the walls are climbing or falling in on him, he will drop his eyes and take off instead of maybe looking to find those second reaction throws. And that's something that in the NFL, I think he'll need to get better at. But again, he's dynamic and he forces defenses to defend him like Lamar Jackson because he is a legitimate dual threat quarterback.
You also did an exhaustive mock draft, all 7 rounds. You have the Patriots taking Drake May. And is
Mhm.
that mostly because Jaden went above him and you like Drake May over JJ McCarthy?
Yeah, and that's my personal opinion, and I think that's how. First, I mean, I would say let's you didn't use the word consensus, but I know a lot of people do. Let's throw it out. It shouldn't be that word should never be used in any NFL draft discussion because that's just not how it works. Every team has their own quarterback board, and it looks very different from team to team. And we don't know how the Patriots feel, but I would be surprised. I mean, I was at one point, like around the combine, I thought, if they got the right trade compensation, the right trade package, I think they'd move out of there because, like you said at the top, they have so many needs and a chance to, they're in a power position right now with that third overall pick. They have a chance to trade back and get a lot of future draft capital that they can help build this roster, but this is also, if you're drafting a quarterback early, it's an ownership pick. And I have a hard time believing that Robert Kraft, 82-year-old Robert Kraft, is going to go through another year of what he saw on offense this past year. I just think he knows this offense needs an injection of life. And whether that's Jaden Daniels, whether that's Drake May, I think it's going to be one of these quarterbacks. And if Jaden Daniels does go two, which it's where the buzz is right now, but I promise you that buzz is not coming from the Commanders. It's coming from just other, people around the league who are guessing, making educated guesses that Jaden Daniels is going to. Then I do think Drake May makes the most sense if he's on the board at 3.
All right. If they do what a lot of people don't want them to do, something Bill Belichick would probably have done, trade down.
Mm-hmm.
Which of the next tier quarterbacks, uh, could be available? Say if they drop down, if they made the trade with Minnesota, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Who do you see available there, and who would be your choice?
Me personally, there are 4 quarterbacks that should go in the first round, and to me, that's it. Bo Nix, Michael Penix, they're I think they can start in the NFL, but if I'm drafting a quarterback in the first round, that's me saying this quarterback is going to be I believe this quarterback will be a top 12 to 15 quarterback in the NFL. If I don't believe that, then I shouldn't be drafting him in the first round. So, and I can't get there with either Nix or Penix that they will be a top 12 quarterback in the NFL, a guy that's going to help lead a team to the playoffs and the division. And I think that they have enough talent to be starters in the league, but more middle of the road starters and not guys that are going to be looked at as, hey, we're leading this team to the playoffs. And for different reasons, like I said, I think they're good quarterbacks, but not players I would consider in the first round. Now, obviously everyone's got their own opinions, and with the Raiders took Michael Penix at 13, would that be too surprising? Probably not. If the Broncos at 12 did that, probably not. But I think it's more likely we have 4 quarterbacks go in the top 10, and then we see maybe a gap, and then maybe one or two of these guys fits into the late first. But I would be surprised if we saw one of these quarterbacks go in kind of the middle portion of the first round and in the teens area.
Is JJ McCarthy kind of tough? Well, from your perspective, tough to evaluate given the offense they ran, which was really predominantly a running offense. Some games he only threw 6 times or 10 times. Is he a tougher guy to kind of grade out because of that?
No doubt, because it takes more projection. His evaluation feels incomplete because there's just not the body of work that you ideally want for any player, but especially a quarterback. And so he is still young. He just turned 21 years old. I know fans roll their eyes when you start talking about quarterback win-loss record, but you look at JJ McCarthy, 27-1 with a national title at Michigan. 36-2 with a state championship in high school as a starter. So this guy has won everywhere he's been. And, like I said, yeah, more of a body of work is ideal, but I'm encouraged by when it's third down, fourth down, and his team needs him to make a play. More times than not, he did it. And, you could throw on the Rose Bowl against Alabama. The Michigan State game was one of those tapes that really stood out in a positive way because the way he operated the offense in those money downs where they needed him to make a play. Okay, he made it. So yeah, there is more of a projection involved. There's no doubt about that. There's no way around it. But I think that teams are going to look at the tools, look at the traits, look at the intangibles, and say, this is a guy worth betting on. And so somewhere in the top 10, I think we're going to see him if it's the Vikings trading up or one of these teams. I think we're going to see him go pretty early.
Let's move on. As I said, you did a mock draft. You did all 7 rounds, so you had a whole bunch of picks for the Patriots throughout. I think it's universally, I shouldn't say that. I obviously left tackle is a need for them. And my take is while there's a lot of depth at tackle, it's not going to spread out to third and fourth and fifth round. So I think the best round for them is the second round or even to move up in the first round. You have them taking Kingsley Suamatea. Did I say
Hmm.
that right?
Yeah, pretty good. Yeah.
Um, what do you like about him and like about him for the Patriots in that second round slot at 34?
Yeah, and I think, what you said is very true about obviously them needing a tackle, but if they want to get the right tackle, they might have to move up a little bit because this is a tackle class that is very top heavy. It does drop off a little bit. Even with a player like Suamatia, he still has developing to do. He's a former five-star guy, very talented. There's a lot to like about him, size-wise, the way he can move. He's a strong run blocker. He has range and pass protection, but he also, there's some parts of his game that he needs to iron out. It's inconsistent pad level. It's, his hands being on schedule. There's a lot of things about him that he still needs to figure out. And he's a young player, and it will take a little bit of time with him, but you see the promise. And that's the only thing with a young quarterback going to New England. Can they put enough around him immediately so the young quarterback is not going to, his confidence won't implode. And, drafting a tackle is a big part of that. Drafting someone they can put out there that's going to help keep the quarterback upright. And same thing with receiver. Adding receivers to this mix that are going to help pretty quickly to help the young quarterback develop. And so, yeah, this is a tackle class that once you get to the second round, there are players that are worthy of drafting that early and could be NFL starters down the road.
Maybe
But it all comes,
developmental, more
yeah,
development.
it
Yeah.
all depends on how the team has to determine when will that be. Is it early in their rookie year? Is it towards the end of their rookie year? Is it not till year two? And that's where the evaluation, all these guys, Patrick Paul from Houston, and there's a couple of these tackles in that second round, Blake Fisher from Notre Dame, where the timeline of when they're going to be able to get on the field, the answer to that is going to be different from team to
Yeah.
team.
Yeah. Do you see Kingsley on the left side in the
He
NFL?
played both. He played both at BYU. He was a right tackle as a sophomore last year, 2022, moved to left tackle this year. I do think he has the talent, the ability to play either side.
Hmm. Moving on, third round, you have a wide receiver. I know again, this is a very good wide receiver class.
Mhm.
You have them taking Malachi Corley. Why?
He's a fun player. He's 5'11", 207, but a playmaker when the ball's in his hands. And he had the nickname the Yak King at Western Kentucky because of how good he was after the catch. He's almost like a running back. He's an extension of the running game. But I think when he at the Senior Bowl, he showed he could be more than that. He can be more than just an underneath receiver who's going to look to catch and run. He can win down the field. He's a good athlete, catches the ball well. But above all, you just want to get the ball in his hands. Let him be an athlete. Let him be dynamic, and he can rip off explosive plays. No, there's no question about that. So I think he would add an extra element to this offense that is going to help a young quarterback in terms of just getting the ball out and into your playmakers' hands and help the Patriots move the chains. So I think fit wise and talent wise, Malachi Corley fits what the Patriots might want there in the third round.
Yeah, he's comes from a small school, but obviously people noticed him or have noticed him. So
Mhm.
um,
And you can throw in the Ohio State tape, and he's making plays against Ohio State. So it's like I said, the Senior Bowl against better competition. So even though the bulk of his production was at Western Kentucky was against lower level competition, Conference USA, when it mattered against bigger schools or at the Senior Bowl, he showed up as well.
you move in the fourth round into the defense. It's funny, last year they drafted defense, defense, defense.
Hmm.
This year, I shouldn't be a surprise if they go offense, offense, offense. Um, you went for an edge rusher, and is that because they have a bunch of guys on 1 year deals or Matthew Judon getting old? Why did you see that as a fit for them with Jalix Hunt?
All 32 teams need more depth at that position. You know, you are looking to add to your rotation, and Hunt's a player that is another developmental player where whatever he gives you as a rookie is going to be a bonus, but you're drafting him for year 2, year 3, year 4, where you think he's going to be able to show out. He was a safety at Cornell, and he made that transfer to Houston Christian, put on weight, became this feared pass rusher. He was the defensive player of the year down there in that conference. So there's a lot of ability there. And so 6'4", just over 250 pounds, tested really well at the combine, moves really well. There's a lot of ability here. It's going to take some time and some coaching to get him there. So, but I think where the Patriots are, I don't think anyone's expecting them to compete at a high level in 2024. But as you're building this team, you're looking at your 2025 roster, your 2026 roster. Hunt's a guy that you invest in the fourth round this year, and you feel like it could pay dividends down the road.
Let me ask you, Dane, did your mindset with the type of players to pick for the Patriots change now with Belichick gone and
Mm.
Elliott Wolf kind of being the key decision maker for the draft process? I mean, did you have to change anything in your head in terms of the type of player that, might land in New England?
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, we don't know enough about Elliot Wolf as a key decision maker, as a drafter, but we know where he came from, where he cut his teeth, and his father, obviously, Ron Wolf, coming from that Packers system. He had a lot of influences there. That's where he grew up, his scouting education, and so certain positions you're looking for certain types of athletes. Certain positions you're looking for certain arm lengths. Now Elliot will probably have his own style that we'll learn more about as we get this draft under our feet and future drafts. But I do think that they're in a position where we're going to draft young, toolsy, traitsy athletes that have a lot of ability and, but guys that also have good football character. I think that's important especially when you look at this coaching staff, the coaches they compiled, having a strong football character, guys that are passionate about it, want to be great. That's going to be a core tenet of who they draft as well.
I wanted to talk about one more of your selections for the Patriots. Another wide receiver from Pitt, Bub Means, and you think perhaps his tie with Taekwon Underwood, Underwood might push for this kid. What can you tell me about him?
Yeah, and that was kind of like a fun anecdote. Something like, again, when you have the beast, you kind of figure these things out. Yeah, Bub Means was a player who started at Tennessee. He was a good a good recruit, and then he transfers to Louisiana Tech. He didn't really have the impact there. He wanted to go to an offense where he could see more targets, and he had a connection with Taekwon Underwood, who former receiver himself. He was the Pitt wide receiver coach, and he was able to connect with him. So he transfers to Pitt and was productive the last 2 years in that offense. And he calls Coach Underwood his mentor, someone that's really brought him up into learning how to play the position, play it at a high level. And now that Coach Underwood's on the Patriots staff, I don't, you can make the connection there where if the Patriots are looking to double up at receiver, which is very possible, you get one early, you get one late, and a guy like Bub Means is kind of that ideal late round type of swing and see what you have. 6'1", 212. He's got 4.4 speed, a big time athlete, a type of guy that the production doesn't necessarily jump out at you, but you feel based on the traits, based off of what he does well, there's more to him than just what the raw stats say. So Bub Means is one of those guys late rounds. Makes sense to throw a dart, see if you have something with him.
Mm. Do you have a favorite player in the draft from the 400 or so that you wrote about?
Yeah. Quinion Mitchell, the corner from Toledo in the first round. I've been high on him, since the summer, saying, "Hey, this guy's good." And to his credit, he had an All-American season, went to the Senior Bowl, was the best player there. Went to the combine, tore that up. So to his credit, he made sure everybody knew who he was, and now he has a legitimate chance to be the first defensive player drafted, which is just awesome for him. I love to see that. A couple of these corners I really like: Andrew Phillips from Kentucky, Mikey Sainristil still from Michigan. Western Michigan pass rusher Marshawn Nealand is one of my favorites this year. Another MAC player who I think is overlooked, but a guy that has a lot of tools, a lot of traits that I'm going to bet on and say I think that's going to translate well. So yeah, my favorite part of the draft is really day two when they're not first round picks, but there's a lot of talent on day two that are going to be future starters, guys that help round out a roster and end up making an impact.
Well, my all favorite name goes to Kool-Aid McKinstry.
Hard to
So,
beat that. Yeah, yeah, that's a good one. But hey, there's almost 2,000 names in here, so there's a lot of good ones. There's a kid later on from Nebraska, Kearney, Will Spies. I think that was a good one. So yeah, there's a lot of differing names and unique names in this thing.
who would you say are the bigger or the players most considered in the boom or bust category? Who would you put there, especially in the first round?
Yeah, I mean, they're all every year we have those guys. This year, looking at my list now. I think Nate Wiggins is a little bit like that, the corner from Clemson. He has a lot of ability, but the lack of bulk and mass and play strength, I know that worries a lot of teams. If you can't hold up physically, we know he's fast, but just matching up with the physicality of NFL receivers, that's going to be pretty tough. Amarius Mims, I mean, to me, he's the most fascinating player in the draft. 6'8", 340. I've never seen 340 pounds look like him. The traits are off the charts. The way he moves is just different. 36-inch arms, but he has 8 starts, and so there's a level of inexperience there that you have to project. And so I think Amarius Mims, the tackle from Georgia, 3 years from now could be the best tackle from this class, or he could be, a backup. I think there's a wide range of outcomes because of that lack of experience, but I think that he's a really fascinating player because of it.
I've seen some people put Drake May in the boom bust category. Agree, disagree?
I think it's easy to put quarterbacks there because, if you're a top five quarterback, there's not many middle of the road top five quarterbacks. Either you're good and you live up to it, or really good and you live up to it, or you fall short and you're a bust. And so if you're a quarterback drafted in the top five, chances are you're going to be labeled as one of those two things. And there's not a lot of in between, not a lot of middle ground. So, I can understand why any of these quarterbacks in the top five would be categorized as one of those boom bust guys.
How about a few sleepers? I know, somebody like a Ricky Pearsall has kind of jumped up the board and probably wouldn't be considered a sleeper anymore. But
No.
anybody on your list that you think, is might be under the radar who could surprise people?
Yeah, Marshawn Nealand, who I mentioned, is that guy for me. Kieran Amageji from Yale is an offensive tackle who's got a fun background, being a basketball player and inexperienced at left tackle, but a ton of ability. Another guy where you invest in him now, 3 years from now, it's looking like a smart bet. So he's a guy that I don't think he gets enough credit. Every year, yeah, we have these quote unquote smaller school guys that are able to show out, and Yale's got one this year with this left tackle. He's a good player.
Hmm. Well, some people have actually mocked him to the Patriots too,
It'll
a
take time with him. He's a development guy, but yeah, he's a character wise, traits wise, he's a good player.
But anyway, thank you, Dane, for coming on. Loved the beast and look forward to next year's. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.